ended up with the youngest granddaughter, who I've contacted recently, and but she was a bit evasive. I don't know whether she's got it or doesn't want to show it, or whether she lent it to somebody, and one of those things where you lend it and don't know where it is. So, but it would be nice if it was. But I think they made. I think when James was making boats, because he couldn't read and write, they didn't draw plans. Everything was made to a model. So they made a model and then sized it up. And then when the three boys became a little more involved with building the boats, my grandfather, which was Harry, the middle one, he did most of the paperwork side of it.
He was the educated one.
Yeah, I mean, he was the one who had they probably all had the same education, but he was the one who was the brightest, I suppose. But the others they were all good shipwrights, and they all went and worked in dockyards, and I think the eldest and the youngest went to South America and worked in some of the boatyards there, and then came back and worked in Devonport dockyard during the war. But they did actually make some military type boats, tenders and stuff for various small boats at the yard. But by that time the railway had come into fruition, and the main trade was barges to ply the fruit and veg and the ore up and down the Tamar. And of course the railway took everything, and instead of diversifying into something new, like the leisure side of things, which wasn't as popular in those days, it didn't, and they closed the yard, and they basically just walked out and left it. And for many years people used to go over and pilfer tools and wood and so on. So it was just left to go into disrepair, I think, which was one of the sad parts of it.
It's funny, isn't it? Because one of the things we find now taking liner up to Calstock always feels amazing, because you know that's where it was built, and you can see the remains of the
Yeah.
yard and the bridge there. But do you have any memory of being there? I know it was a long time ago when you were 7 years old, but what was the atmosphere, the smells, and how was it to be near the river? Just the river, the whole river must have been quite different, I think. I just wondered how it was when you just to sort of...
Well, it's funny, I mean, that's all I knew, because I never saw it before. I never went, back afterwards, but I loved it there. I mean, we used to, I lived in a cottage just out towards Lower Kelly, next door to one of the kilns, which was my grandfather's, lived in a cottage there. That's where I stayed during the war. No water supply, no toilets or anything. Granny used to have an outside toilet, and no taps indoors. It was in the wash house and all that sort of thing. And I always remember Granny having to empty the buckets down into the river, but it was only certain times she was allowed to do it, because which way the tide was going and all this sort of stuff. And we used to stand guard, and she'd say, when we go, nobody coming in it, she'd be out in her white overall, wear these overalls and take out these buckets and tilt them out, and the water supply, we had to walk up the road to the well, which was built in the side of the road. And I just loved it there. I wasn't allowed to go too near the water, but I can remember making arrows out of the rushes, and hollowing them out and putting something at one end, and then my cousin who lived next door to me taught me which we went out the back, and which trees would make a bow. So he taught me how to make a bow, so I had a bow and arrow with it. It was the best time of my life. Somebody said to me one day, "You brought up in you're a townie. I said, no. This country, and she said, you can't possibly do. What do you know about the country? And I said, well, told them, and that's it. I said, I think of myself as a Cornish person rather than a Kentish person. But it's just there. I mean, my eldest son will say when you're driving down, and probably Mark the same, you get to a point on the way down where you're in. We're now getting to the West Country, and it's just there. I don't know why, but it is.
I mean, I didn't realise that when my father passed away, Mum said, I'm moving out of London. I said, you're not here, don't you? She said, no, I'm not going to live here. Never ever. And I don't think Granny and Grandad wanted to. That's Olive Goss, who was granddaughter. She went up to London.
Well, she had to, because Dad, that was the only way to get any work then.
Yeah, and we don't know how she survived, really.
No. How she got through the war, I don't know.
That sort of thing, so.
My
So
father,
Mum moved away straight away, didn't you?
Well,
So you're now living in Wincanton. So
well, yes, much of my eldest son's
It's all halfway.
discussed.
We wouldn't have a
No, you don't want to know that.
I said to my son one day, would you mind finding an area and finding a house? And he said, what for? I said, well, I'm coming down there. Oh, God, he said. I said, all right, I'll stay up in Kent, and when something goes wrong, you can come up and do it. So anyway, Mark comfortably moved down to Cheltenham. Anyway, I think in their heart, they're a bit Cornish, two boys and that. You get these people.
Thank you very much.
Well, I was at work all weekend, and you might go. Sorry, did I divert you?
Technology.
Works brilliantly when it does.
Can't tell you anyway. We are absolutely delighted that you managed to join us today. And I'll tell you what we're going to do next. We're going to celebrate Lionel's 125th birthday with a nice cake with strawberries from strawberries that Lionel would be carrying.
I'll be okay in January now. I didn't book these in to do the course on the liner. And I thought, well, I'm doing all this, and I haven't put my foot on it. I can't get anywhere near it. So I rang up and said, I know you take public on, sort of thing. And they said, yes, we do birthdays. I said, oh, it's my birthday. And September the 9th, and she said, all right, I'll book you on. So I'm going on the line on September the 9th, on the 4th. And I'm taking people, friends and relatives on there.
Keep my fingers crossed for the weather.
Yes.
I don't care what it is, because I'd love to sort of sail back up the Tamar. Never did that. I used to go with Grandad in the salmon fishing, but on picnics. Most of the time, you'd say, all ready to go for a picnic. You know, the time's turned, I can't take the boat down, which was my mother's delight, because she hated the water.
This is where they used to tie the schooners up.
Yeah.
And the boats, but Bird's boat yard, as you know, is further down.
Yes. The Ashburton Hotel, which was on the corner out of Kelly towards Danescombe, my other grandfather, Preston, he bought that, sold it, and bought from the monies I got from it, he got all the land up Danescombe.
Oh, yeah.
You know where I'm talking about, Danescombe, and moved their families and let them live in that lovely place. It wasn't a hotel then. He put them in these cottages. He converted 4 cottages into 3 or something. And the whole family lived there. The Preston family all lived there. My father used to go up and blew up many of the trees up Danescombe with dynamite, live dynamite stick underneath them. So
my dad always said you didn't need to go abroad on holiday, you could just go to Danescombe instead. Or at our Preston, so not very far away.
That must be the cottage. If you walk in from Coteal round to Calstock, you come to a little place with some cottages. That must be
And Danescomb's the big
on the
house
corner.
with the sort
The big hotel place,
Yeah.
as you go
Yeah.
into, that's the first building you see as you come in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so he was the Preston family was in the market garden.
They own a lot of land
Yeah.
down at Calstock, yes.
So they owned all the land
Well,
there.
is that where Joe Preston was in Kent?
Yeah, yeah,
Same
well,
one.
Joe, they were a bit further up the valley.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you walked up Dainscombe and then you hit the road. There was a road that came up by the mine where the cricket club is now, I think.
I know where Joe.
And that was their market garden because they were all market gardens.
Yeah.
But
And then Grandad, that president, he moved to Landrake, so I lived down there. Part of the time we were evacuated. When Dad came down, we went to Landrake to stay with them, and then when the rest of the time we lived at Calstock. So
But I think Calstock, what you were saying earlier about, obviously, by the time I came along, which was a lot longer,
Yeah, a lot.
most of the industrial side of things had finished, but you still had the market gardens, and you
Yeah.
still, but everything went to the railway.
Daffodils and strawberries.
But Calstock has there's a smell. People say it's the arsenic in the water, but there is something about Calstock when you go down there. If you were grown up, we used to go and stay with Granny and Grandpa, and my mother used to say, before you go, you must go to the toilet because Granny's got no flush toilet. You must. And of course we never did. The first thing we wanted to do was go to the toilet because it was wonderful because you went up a little path through the roses and you went in. It was a wooden seat and it was huge and they had all the herbs and stuff drying in there and dried flowers and it was like camping out. So you always wanted to go there. That was yeah. Yeah, you can just about. But it's a nice place, Calstock. But I think when my parents lived there, it was obviously quite industrial. And of course, during the war, they had the American troops there.
Yeah.
So it was quite lively, I think.
But Calstock,
They were actually opposite Bird's Boatyard. If you know Bird's Boatyard, there is a Nissen hut that's still there, and that was where some of them were billeted.
right.
And they actually had some of the American landing craft and stuff actually up the river.
Wow.
Because it's quite deep, mind.
Two.
They were all around, weren't they? I know there's lots of spots where they
I bet that's superstition here.
Yeah.
If you lived in places like that and suddenly these exotic foreigners arrive.
And then presumably they embarked up there. Did they embark at Calstock or did they come down here to
I think they came down.
So no, they embarked at Barn Pool here.
Yeah, they came into Barn Pool, didn't they? I think.
Yeah.
But it's something that my father would have known, but not me.
Because when we first came down here nearly 50 years ago, down at Barn Pool they still had what we call the chocolate boxes,
Yes.
the concrete
Squares.
squares, right down Barn Pool where the landing craft used to come in and out.
Because you had very deep water in Barn Pool.
Yep,
isn't it? Very deep.
we've anchored there a few times and dragged
Yeah.
because we haven't hit the
Yeah,
bottom.
you can't get it. No.
And this could be the sample of food I'm going to have for my birthday.
We're going to celebrate everyone's birthday.
Well, I've booked I've got taken my family friends onto the boat and they do lunch and everything, but the only thing is I've got to take my own birthday cake. That's right. My daughter-in-law made that. Well, you should see the menu that she sent me that she's going to do. So they're going to put on balls. It'll be lovely.
Oh, you're looking forward to
Now,
that.
who was saving it? You to you, Curry, or something?
Yes, I think
Yeah,
so.
definitely. I can't. We're gonna be.
Yeah, I guess we'll be.
Well, I said, because everybody, the whole family are going on the boat, and there's me having organised it all.
You're right.
I'm not going, and I rang up and said, no, she don't do any part of things. She did. You can go on, oh, yeah, that's fine. And, so we will not raining.